Kate Williams had always been the type of woman who believed in the perfect family portrait. Every Christmas, every birthday, every anniversary was documented with careful precision. Her camera roll was filled with thousands of photos, Williams' laugh lines deepening over the years, their children's first steps, family vacations where everyone actually smiled at the same time. Photography wasn't just a hobby for Kate. It was her way of holding on to moments that seemed to slip away too quickly. On a Tuesday morning in late September, Kate decided to finally tackle the project she'd been putting off for months, organizing their family photos for a surprise anniversary album. William would be turning 45 next month, and she wanted to create something special that captured their 18 years together. The autumn sunlight streamed through their kitchen windows as she spread photo albums, loose pictures, and memory cards across the dining table. Their house in suburban Connecticut had that lived-in warmth that comes from years of family life. Soccer cleats by the front door, art projects stuck to the refrigerator, and the faint smell of morning coffee still lingering in the air. Their teenage daughter Emma was at school, and their 12-year-old son Jake was at his friend's house for the afternoon. William was at his accounting firm downtown, probably buried in spreadsheets and client meetings. It was the perfect quiet day for Kate to work on her project undisturbed. She started with the oldest albums, carefully removing photos and sorting them chronologically. There were pictures from their college days when they first met at a mutual friend's party. Kate smiled at a photo of 22-year-old William, his hair longer then, wearing a ridiculous Halloween costume. There were engagement photos, wedding pictures where they both looked impossibly young, and early married life snapshots from their tiny first apartment. As the morning progressed, Kate worked her way through years of memories. There were photos from Emma's birth, tiny and wrinkled in the hospital bassinet. William holding her for the first time, looking terrified and amazed simultaneously. Jake's arrival 4 years later, completing their family. Birthday parties, Christmas mornings, beach vacations, and countless everyday moments that had seemed ordinary at the time, but now felt precious. Around noon, Kate reached for William's old camera bag, which had been tucked away in their bedroom closet for years. He'd upgraded to a digital camera long ago, but she remembered him taking some beautiful shots with his old film camera during their early years together. Maybe there were developed rolls she'd forgotten about, perfect for the anniversary album. The leather bag smelled faintly of the cologne William used to wear in his 20s. Kate unzipped the various compartments, finding old lens caps and used film rolls and a small stack of developed photographs held together with a rubber band. Her heart lifted. These might be exactly what she was looking for. She settled back at the dining table and removed the rubber band. The first few photos were exactly what she'd hoped to find, candid shots of her and William from their dating years. There was one of her laughing at something off-camera, her hair catching the sunlight. Another showed William concentrating intensely on grilling burgers at a friend's barbecue. These would be perfect for the album's early pages. Kate flipped through the photos with growing excitement. There were several she'd never seen before, including some beautiful black and white portraits William had taken during his brief artistic photography phase. She'd always admired his eye for composition, even though he'd eventually set aside photography to focus on his career. Then, she reached a photo that made her pause. It was clearly taken in their old apartment, but she wasn't in it. Instead, a young woman with long auburn hair was sitting on their couch, laughing at something off-camera. Kate didn't recognize her immediately, but something about the intimacy of the shot, the way the woman was positioned, the casual nature of her pose, made Kate's stomach flutter with unease. Kate studied the photo more carefully. The woman was wearing one of William's college t-shirts, the blue one with a faded university logo that Kate had eventually claimed as her own. The woman's legs were curled beneath her, and she was holding a coffee mug Kate recognized from their old kitchen set. Everything about the photo suggested familiarity, comfort, intimacy. She flipped to the next photo, hoping for context that would explain away her growing discomfort. This one showed the same woman, but now she was looking directly at the camera with a soft, affectionate smile. It was the kind of look Kate recognized from her own early photos with William, the expression of someone who was completely comfortable with the person behind the camera, someone who was falling in love. Kate's hands began to shake slightly as she continued through the remaining photos. There were several more of the auburn-haired woman, taken in different locations around their old apartment. One showed her cooking in their tiny kitchen, another captured her reading on the fire escape. Each photo was beautifully composed, taken with the kind of care and attention William had always brought to photographing things he found beautiful. The final photo in the stack made Kate's breath catch. It showed the woman asleep in their bed, the morning light streaming across her face. Her auburn hair was spread across William's pillow, and she was wearing what was unmistakably one of his dress shirts. The photo was tender, intimate, and completely devastating. Kate set the photos down on the table with trembling hands. She stared at them spread out before her, trying to make sense of what she was seeing. These photos had been taken in their apartment, the place where she and William had built their early life together. But based on the woman's appearance and the quality of the photos, they seemed to be from around the same time period when Kate thought she and William had been exclusively dating. She picked up one of the photos again, examining it more closely. The woman was beautiful in an effortless way, with delicate features and an easy smile. She looked young, probably early 20s, around the same age Kate had been when she and William first got together. But Kate had no memory of William ever mentioning anyone like this from his past. Kate's mind raced as she tried to place these photos in the timeline of their relationship. She and William had met in college during their junior year and had been together ever since. They'd moved in together the summer after graduation, into the very apartment where these photos were taken. Kate had thought she was the first and only woman William had ever brought to that space. The implications of what she was looking at began to sink in. Either these photos were taken before Kate and William met, which seemed unlikely given the apparent time frame, or they were taken during a period when Kate thought they were in an exclusive relationship. Neither possibility was comforting. Kate gathered the photos back into a neat stack, her mind spinning. She needed to think clearly about this. Maybe there was an innocent explanation. Maybe the photos were older than they appeared. Maybe this was a friend she'd somehow forgotten about. But even as she tried to rationalize what she'd seen, Kate knew in her gut that these photos told a story she'd never heard before. She looked around their dining room, with its family photos covering every surface and their 18 years of marriage documented in careful detail. Everything she thought she knew about their relationship was now called into question by a handful of photographs hidden away in an old camera bag. Kate's phone buzzed with a text message. It was from William, working late tonight. Don't wait up for dinner. Love you. She stared at the message for a long moment, then looked back at the photos scattered across the table. The woman's face smiled up at her from multiple angles, frozen in moments of happiness Kate had never known existed. For the first time in 18 years of marriage, Kate realized she might not know her husband as well as she thought she did. The afternoon sun continued to stream through the kitchen windows, illuminating the family photos Kate had spent the morning organizing. But now, surrounded by evidence of a secret she'd never suspected, Kate felt like she was looking at her life through completely different eyes. The perfect family portrait she'd been trying to create suddenly felt like an elaborate fiction, and she wasn't sure what was real anymore. She carefully placed the mysterious photos back in William's camera bag, exactly where she'd found them. But she knew there was no way to unsee what she'd discovered. The questions these photos raised would demand answers, and Kate wasn't sure she was ready for what she might learn. As she sat alone in their quiet house, surrounded by 18 years of documented memories, Kate realized that some pictures tell stories their subjects never intended to share. The sound of Jake's key in the front door interrupted her spiraling thoughts. She quickly cleared the table, putting away the family photos she'd been organizing. But William's camera bag remained on the chair beside her, its contents burning in her mind like a secret she wasn't sure she could keep. The next 3 days passed in a blur of forced normalcy. Kate went through the motions of her regular routine, making breakfast for the family, driving Jake to soccer practice, helping Emma with her college application essays. But underneath her carefully maintained exterior, Her mind kept returning to those photographs like a tongue probing a sore tooth. She found herself studying William in ways she hadn't in years. During dinner conversations, she watched his expressions, searching for signs of deception or hidden guilt. When he told stories about their early dating years, she listened with new attention, wondering what details he might be omitting. Every casual mention of old friends or forgotten memories made her wonder what else she didn't know about the man she'd been married to for 18 years. William seemed completely oblivious to her scrutiny. He came home from work each evening with the same tired smile, asked about her day with genuine interest, and fell asleep beside her with the comfortable ease of someone with a clear conscience. His behavior gave no indication that he was harboring any secrets, which somehow made Kate's discovery even more unsettling. On Friday evening, Emma announced she was staying at her friend Sarah's house for the weekend, and Jake was invited to a sleepover birthday party. For the first time since finding the photos, Kate and William would be alone in the house together for an extended period. The prospect both terrified and excited her. Maybe this would be her chance to find answers, or maybe the isolation would drive her to confront him before she was ready. Kate spent Friday night lying awake beside William, listening to his steady breathing and try to work up the courage to wake him and demand explanations. But every time she considered it, she lost her nerve. What if the photos revealed something that would destroy their marriage? What if she was better off not knowing? What if there was an innocent explanation that would make her suspicions seem foolish and paranoid? Saturday morning arrived gray and drizzly, matching Kate's mood perfectly. William slept late, exhausted from a particularly demanding week at work. Kate made coffee and sat at the kitchen table, the same spot where she'd made her devastating discovery just days earlier. The anniversary album she'd been planning remained unfinished, scattered materials serving as a constant reminder of how quickly her world had been turned upside down. When William finally emerged from their bedroom, hair rumpled and wearing his favorite weekend sweatshirt, Kate felt a familiar pang of affection that only complicated her emotional turmoil further. This was the man she'd built a life with, the father of her children, her partner in everything that mattered. The idea that he might have been hiding something fundamental about their early relationship felt almost impossible to accept. William poured himself coffee and leaned against the kitchen counter, smiling at her with the easy warmth that had first attracted her all those years ago. "You're up early for a Saturday," he observed. "Everything okay?" Kate forced a smile. "Just couldn't sleep. I was thinking about the anniversary album again. I found some old photos in your camera bag. I hope you don't mind that I went through it." For just a moment, something flickered across William's expression. It might have been surprise or concern or something else entirely. But it passed so quickly that Kate couldn't be sure she'd seen anything at all. "Of course I don't mind," William said, taking a sip of his coffee. "Find anything good? I haven't looked in that bag in years." Kate watched his face carefully as she responded. "Just some old shots from our apartment. There were a few I didn't recognize, though. Some pictures of a woman with auburn hair." This time, there was no mistaking William's reaction. His coffee cup paused halfway to his lips, and Kate saw something shift in his eyes. It was subtle, a tightening around the edges, a slight tension in his jaw, but it was definitely there. "Auburn hair," William repeated, setting down his cup. "I'm not sure what you mean. Were they mixed in with our photos?" Kate felt her heart rate increase. The careful neutrality in his voice was somehow more alarming than outright denial would have been. "They were in the same stack," she said slowly. "Pictures of a woman in our old apartment. She was wearing your college t-shirt in one of them." William was quiet for a long moment, staring out the kitchen window at their rain-soaked backyard. Kate could see him thinking, weighing his options, and the silence stretched between them like a chasm opening in their marriage. "Kate," he finally said, turning back to face her. "Those photos, they're from before we were together. Before we were serious, I mean." "Before we were serious?" Kate's voice rose slightly. "William, we moved in together right after graduation. When exactly were these photos taken?" William ran a hand through his hair, a gesture Kate recognized as his tell when he was uncomfortable or stressed. "It's complicated," he said. "Can we talk about this later?" Maybe after the kids get home. Kate stood up from the table, her chair scraping against the floor. No, we cannot talk about this later. I found intimate photographs of another woman in our home, taken in our apartment, and you want to postpone the conversation? They're not intimate, William said quickly, then seemed to realize how defensive he sounded. I mean, they're just regular photos. Portraits, mostly. Kate stared at him in disbelief. Regular photos? William, there's one of her sleeping in our bed. How is that regular? The color drained from William's face. Kate could see him calculating, trying to figure out exactly which photos she'd seen and what they revealed. His obvious discomfort confirmed what she'd already suspected. These weren't innocent snapshots that could be easily explained away. I need some air, William said suddenly, moving toward the back door. This isn't. I can't have this conversation right now. You can't run away from this, Kate called after him. I found those photos, William. I saw them. You can't just pretend this isn't happening. But William was already outside, standing on their back deck with his hands braced against the railing. Through the kitchen window, Kate watched him take deep breaths of the cool morning air. His shoulders were tense with what looked like barely controlled emotion. Kate followed him outside, wrapping a sweater around herself against the chill. The backyard that had once felt like a sanctuary now seemed like a stage for a confrontation she'd never wanted to have. Her name was Sarah, William said quietly, not turning around. Sarah Mitchell. We dated for about 6 months during our senior year. Kate felt the ground shift beneath her feet. Senior year? But we met in junior year. We were together our entire senior year. William's hands tightened on the railing. We were on a break. Do you remember? Right after Christmas junior year. You said you wanted some space to figure things out. Kate did remember that period, though her recollection was quite different from what William was describing. She'd been overwhelmed with family drama during the holidays and had asked for some time to sort through her feelings. But it had lasted maybe 3 weeks, not 6 months, and they'd never officially broken up. That wasn't a break, Kate said, her voice shaking. That was me asking for some breathing room. We were still together. William finally turned to face her, and Kate was shocked to see tears in his eyes. I thought we were over, he said. You stopped calling, stopped coming around. I thought you were trying to let me down easy. Kate searched her memory, trying to reconcile William's version of events with her own recollections. Had there been a miscommunication that fundamental? Had they been living through the same period completely differently? I was going through a hard time with my parents' divorce, Kate said slowly. I told you I needed some space to deal with family stuff. I never said we were breaking up. You didn't have to say it, William replied. You just disappeared. For weeks. I called, I left messages. You barely responded. Kate felt a chill that had nothing to do with the weather. She remembered that period as a difficult but temporary rough patch in their relationship. But what if William was right? What if her withdrawal had been more complete than she'd realized? What if, in her self-absorbed focus on her family problems, she'd inadvertently ended their relationship without meaning to? So you started dating someone else, Kate said. It wasn't a question. William nodded miserably. I met Sarah in my photography class. She was kind and funny, and she didn't know anything about you, so being with her didn't hurt the way everything else did. Kate felt like she was learning about a parallel version of her life, one where her actions had consequences she'd never imagined. How long were you with her? From February to August, William admitted. Right up until you came to my apartment that day in late August and said you wanted to try again. Kate remembered that day vividly. She'd finished dealing with her parents' messy divorce, felt emotionally ready to fully commit to her relationship with William, and had shown up at his apartment with wine and takeout Chinese food. She thought she was surprising her boyfriend after a difficult few months apart. She'd had no idea she was interrupting another relationship entirely. What happened to her? Kate asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to know. William's expression crumbled. I told her about you, about us wanting to get back together. She was devastated. She thought we were serious. She thought we had a future together. Kate felt a wave of nausea wash over her. For 18 years, she believed that her romantic reunion with William that August day had been a natural resolution of a temporary rough patch. She'd never known that her happiness had come at another woman's expense. You never told me, she said quietly. What was I supposed to say? William asked. That while you were figuring out whether you wanted to be with me, I'd fallen in love with someone else. That choosing you meant breaking another person's heart. The word love hung in the air between them like a physical presence. Kate felt like she couldn't breathe. You loved her, she said. It wasn't a question. William's silence was answer enough. The silence that followed William's admission stretched between them like an unbridgeable chasm. Kate stared at her husband of 18 years, seeing him as if for the first time. The man she thought she knew completely had been carrying the weight of another love story for their entire marriage. Did you choose me, or did you just default back to me? Kate asked, her voice barely above a whisper. William's face contorted with pain. Kate, please. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? Kate's voice gained strength as her shock transformed into anger. Because from where I'm standing, it sounds like you had a whole relationship with someone else, someone you loved, and then I showed up and you just, what? Decided I was the safer choice. You weren't a choice, William said desperately. You were never a choice. You were my person. You always had been. Kate laughed bitterly. Your person? I was your person who you apparently forgot about for 6 months while you played house with someone else in our apartment. It wasn't our apartment then, William said quietly. You made it clear you didn't want to be there. Kate felt like she was being rewritten out of her own history. I never said I didn't want to be there. I said I needed time to deal with my family situation. For months, Kate. Months of barely returned calls, canceled plans, telling me you couldn't handle relationship stress on top of everything else. Kate searched her memories again, trying to see that period through William's eyes. She remembered being consumed with her parents' bitter divorce, the custody battle over her younger sister, the financial stress that had threatened to force her to drop out of college. She'd been drowning in family drama and had, she now realized, probably not been very present for William during one of their most crucial periods as a couple. But that didn't excuse what he'd done, did it? You should have talked to me, Kate said. You should have told me you thought we were broken up instead of just moving on with someone else. I tried, William said. Do you remember the night I came to your dorm in March? I wanted to have a real conversation about where we stood, and you told me you couldn't deal with relationship drama on top of everything else you were going through. Kate did remember that night. She'd been stressed about a family court date where she might have to testify about her father's drinking, and William's visit had felt like one more thing demanding her emotional energy when she had none left to give. So you took that as permission to start dating other people? Kate asked. I took it as confirmation that we were over, William said. Kate, you have to understand, I was 22 years old, and the person I was in love with was telling me she couldn't handle having me in her life. What was I supposed to think? Kate felt tears starting to gather in her eyes. The worst part was that she could see his point. Looking back, her behavior during that period had probably been confusing and hurtful, but that didn't make the betrayal sting any less. Tell me about her, Kate said suddenly. Tell me about Sarah. William looked like she'd struck him. Kate, why would you want to? Because for 18 years, I've been married to someone who loved another woman, and I never knew it. Because there's a whole part of your life, of our life together, that I never understood. Because I need to know what I was up against when I showed up at your apartment that day. William was quiet for so long that Kate thought he might refuse to answer. When he finally spoke, his voice was soft with memory. She was studying art history. She wanted to work in museums, maybe curate exhibitions someday. She had this way of looking at paintings that made you see things you'd never noticed before. William paused, seeming to realize how his words might sound to Kate. She was kind, gentle. She didn't deserve what happened. What had happened exactly? Kate asked. When I came back, William's shoulders sagged. I told her that first night that I needed to think about things. That seeing you again had brought up feelings I thought I'd dealt with. I asked for some time, and she gave it to you? She said she loved me enough to let me figure out what I really wanted. Kate felt like she was hearing about a completely different person than the confident, assertive man she'd married. And what did you want? William looked at her with an expression of such raw honesty that it took her breath away. I wanted both of you. I wanted the comfort and history I had with you, and I wanted the fresh start I'd found with her. I wanted to not have to choose. But you did choose. I chose familiarity, Williams said quietly. I chose the easier path. I chose not having to explain 18 years of history to someone new. I chose you because I was scared of starting over. Kate felt like he'd punched her in the stomach. After 18 years of marriage, 2 children, a shared life built from the ground up, she was learning that her husband had chosen her not out of love, but out of fear. Did you tell her that? Kate asked. When you broke up with her? William shook his head. I told her I realized I wasn't over you, that I'd never really gotten over you. I let her think it was about love instead of cowardice. Kate thought about the woman in the photographs, with her auburn hair and trusting smile. What happened to her after that? She transferred schools for her senior year, went to finish her degree at Berkeley. I heard later that she got married to someone she met there, started a family. Kate wondered if Sarah Mitchell ever thought about William, ever wondered what might have been. She wondered if there was a parallel universe where William had chosen differently, where he was living in California with auburn-haired children and museum opening invitations. Do you ever think about her? Kate asked. William's hesitation was answer enough, but he spoke anyway. Sometimes, especially in the early years of our marriage, when things were hard, I'd wonder if I'd made the right choice. And what conclusion did you come to? William looked at her with an expression she couldn't read. I convinced myself that we were meant to be together, that everything worked out the way it was supposed to. Convinced yourself, Kate repeated. Past tense. Kate, please. We have a good life together. We have Emma and Jake. We have this house. We have 18 years of shared experiences. That has to count for something. Kate looked around their backyard, taking in the swing set William had built when Jake was little, the garden she planted when they first moved in, the patio where they'd hosted countless barbecues and birthday parties. It was all real, all meaningful, but it was also built on a foundation she hadn't known was shaky. Did you keep in touch with her? Kate asked suddenly. William's face went pale. What? No, of course not. You said that too quickly. Kate, I swear to you, I haven't spoken to Sarah in 20 years. But something in his expression made Kate's suspicion sharpen. Haven't spoken to her, or haven't been in contact with her. William's silence was damning. Social media? Kate pressed. Do you follow her online? Check up on her. It's not what you think, William said quickly. Then, tell me what it is. William sat down heavily in one of their patio chairs, suddenly looking older than his 44 years. I found her on Facebook a few years ago. She's a curator at a museum in San Francisco now. She married someone named David. They have 2 kids. Kate felt a fresh wave of betrayal wash over her. You've been keeping tabs on your ex-girlfriend? I wanted to know she was okay, that she'd had a good life. For years? You've been checking up on her for years. Not often, William said defensively. Maybe once or twice a year, just to see if she'd posted anything new. Kate realized she was shaking with anger. Not only had William hidden his past relationship from her, but he'd been maintaining a connection to Sarah, however tenuous, throughout their entire marriage. Show me, Kate said. Kate, that's not going to help anything. Show me your Facebook page, Kate demanded. I want to see what you've been looking at all these years. William reluctantly pulled out his phone and, after several moments of hesitation, navigated to Sarah's profile. He handed the phone to Kate with obvious reluctance. Kate found herself looking at a professional headshot of a woman who had aged beautifully. Sarah's auburn hair was shorter now, styled in a sophisticated bob, and she had laugh lines around her eyes that spoke of a happy life. Her cover photo showed her standing with a tall, dark-haired man and 2 children, a girl who looked about Emma's age and a younger boy. Kate scrolled through the visible posts, seeing glimpses of museum exhibitions, family vacations, birthday celebrations. It was the profile of someone who had built exactly the kind of life Kate had always imagined for herself. Creative, fulfilling, surrounded by people who clearly loved her. She looks happy, Kate said quietly. She does, William agreed. Kate continued scrolling, taking in photos of Sarah's family, her work, her life in California. In one photo, Sarah was standing in front of a Monet painting, explaining something to a group of museum visitors. Her passion for her work was evident in her animated expression. She got everything she wanted, Kate observed. The museum career, the family, the life she planned. William nodded. Kate handed the phone back to him, feeling strangely empty. And what did I get? A husband who settled for me. That's not fair, William said. Our life together has been good. We've been happy. Have we? Kate asked. Or have you just been going through the motions while part of you remained invested in someone else's story? William didn't answer, which was an answer in itself.